Far from being depressed, Wulf felt his spirits rise as he rode away on his banishment from court. For instead of feeling it a disgrace, he regarded it as a step forward in life. Earl Harold could certainly, had he been so inclined, have smoothed down the angry prelate, and could have retained him at court. But by the way he had spoken, Wulf was convinced that the earl let him go because he thought that it was good for him to be away. For 4 years he had been under his tutelage, first at Waltham and then at the court. In the last position his life had indeed been a pleasant one, for as one of Harold's pages he had mixed with all the noble youths of the court, and had had a place at every festive gathering. Still, he had been but a page, and treated as a boy. Now he was to go forth and to learn his duties as his father's successor. Harold's steward, who had since the thane's death acted as the earl's agent in the management of the estate, would instruct him doubtless in his civil duties, while the soldier who rode behind him would teach him how to lead men in battle and how to make the fighting force of the estate efficient. Beyond these duties his time would be his own. He would have responsibilities, but they would be the responsibilities of a thane towards his tenants, and not of a page towards his master. He was going away a boy, but if it pleased that he should remain away for 2 years, he would return a thane. A young one, indeed, but one who had learned the duties of his station, and who, if needs be, could take his place in the field of battle at the head of his followers. For even putting aside the Normans, from whom the earl seemed to think the greatest danger would come, there was never any long cessation of fighting in England. There were the Welsh, who were always turbulent, the Danes of Northumbria, who were still a distinct people, although throughout the rest of England their identity was fast being merged into that of the Saxons. There were the Norsemen, still ready to take every opportunity of interfering in the affairs of England, or, if none offered, to plunder and harry the coast. There were the Earls of Mercia, who bore no great love to the house of Godwin, and who resented the ascendancy of the West Saxons. Lastly, there was Harold's brother Tostig, a fiery and turbulent noble, now Earl of Northumbria, who was jealous of Harold, ever ready to join in plots, and in close alliance with Norway already. He had several times withstood the royal authority, and would assuredly again become a fomenter of trouble should he see a favorable opportunity. At the king's death, if not before, that opportunity would be sure to present itself. Harold would be certainly chosen by the people of London and by the West Saxons, but almost as certainly would his claim be disputed by the Earls of Mercia on one hand, and by Tostig and the Danes on the other. Wulf was sure, therefore, that the work spent in preparing his tenants to take the field when called upon to do so would not be wasted. Full of these thoughts, he rode for some miles from Westminster without addressing himself to the 2 men behind him. Then, bethinking him that these were trusted followers of the earl, and had been specially told off by him to accompany and stay with him, he called them up to his side. Wulf had donned a riding suit instead of court attire, which, in deference to the king's partiality for the Normans, was, even among the staunchest opposers of the foreigners, a compromise between Saxon and Norman fashions. He now wore a tunic of a bright green cloth, girded in at the waist and reaching only to the knee. Over this was worn a garment closely resembling the Roman toga, though somewhat less ample. The folds in front fell below the waist, but it was looped up at each shoulder by a brooch, leaving the arms bare. His legs were clad in tightly fitting trousers, and his feet in somewhat high shoes. On his head he wore a cap, in shape closely resembling the Phrygian bonnet. He was armed with a dagger and a short sword, which hung by a leather strap 2 or 3 inches long from his belt. The outer garment had a hood, which could in bad weather be drawn over the head. The man who was the bearer of Harold's orders to the steward wore a civilian dress not unlike that of Wulf's. He occupied the position of a confidential scribe to Harold. The other wore the garb of a soldier. He was clothed from